Hello. This is a second installment of the podcast that I did last week, which is Who is Guru for God? Guru for God is my guru, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. He teaches about God at the same time as he teaches about meditation. So, to give a quick summary of last week's podcast, when you have a meditation practice that transcends the relative field, then the experience is of universal God, that is the transcendent. This is the first realization of God, the transcendent, when the relative field is transcended. The fullness, the unboundedness of that absolute field of the transcendent, when the relative field of creation is transcended. That fullness, that wholeness of divine being is universal God. So when you transcend in your meditation practice, you are in union with universal God. And that experience is the first realization of God. Now, in time, when you have a regular meditation practice and you are transcending repeatedly, your mind and your body are so transformed by that experience of the fullness, the wholeness of universal God, that they rise to that status of the self that is divine being, that is universal God. So now union with God is permanent. Union with universal God here in the relative field as you go about your life. So the first realization of God is transcending in your meditation practice. And then in time, you are permanently united with universal God when you rise to that status yourself. And then you hold that consciousness of divine being, of yourself, always as you hold the consciousness of the relative field. So that summarizes the first recognition of God. And then Maharishi goes on to teach about the second. Once you are established in yourself, where you do hold that consciousness of universal God always, your heart and your mind are so cultured in that unbounded value of the absolute that they are capable of realizing the personal God. Now, the personal God may be Krishna or Christ or Buddha or Maharishi or any other fully realized human being. Only when you are established in yourself and you have that fullness cultured in your heart and your mind can you realize your personal God. The personal God draws you to themselves, and you feel love for and devotion to your personal God. In time, all of your perceptions here in the relative field are changed. Your personal God is manifest, and all of your senses perceive your personal God manifest here in the relative field. All of your perceptions are of those finest, faintest, celestial values of the created relative field. All your perceptions are joy, the joy of your personal God manifest here in the world. So whereas universal God is realized in the transcendent, is realized in the fullness of divine being, your personal God is realized here in the relative field with your senses. And every perception of yours is that glowing, beautiful, faint, celestial value of the sprouting of creation that is your personal God made manifest here in the world. So Maharishi teaches about God as he teaches about meditation. And the cognition of God changes from when you begin your meditation practice and you begin to transcend the relative field and experience universal God. That is the first God realization. It is in the transcendent. And then as you continue your practices, you are capable of knowing your personal God here in the relative field with all of your senses, perceiving your personal God manifest here in the world. So the first realization is in the transcendent. The second is here with your senses in the relative field. And your realization of God continues to develop to Brahmi Chaitana. But that will be addressed in the next podcast. So please do your practices so you may realize God here in your life. Realize God in the transcendent when you transcend the relative field with your meditation practice. And then grow to realizing your personal God here in the relative field with all of your senses. Knowing your personal God is everywhere and everything. And that your every thought is a flower laid at the feet of your personal God. Your every word is a prayer to them, and your every action is an offering up to them. Thank you, beloved Guru. All glory be to thee.